Shalom, this is the minute Parasha of Mira Neshama, Behar. Behar, the Parasha is called Behar because it starts with this scene of Hashem talking to Moshe, Behar Sinai on Mount Sinai. And what does he say to him? He says, Daber bnei Israel, v'amarta alehem, speak to the bnei Israel, to the sons of Israel, and you will say to them, Kitavu el haaretz asher ani noten lachem. So when you guys will go to this land that I will give you, V'shavta haaretz, Shabbat Lashem. So I love this sentence. I find it very, very, very beautiful, and I want to focus just on this very sentence now. Very simple, very simple. Just looking at the words, because usually we interpret this first sentence as talking about the Shemitah, which is true. It talks about the Shemitah. The Shemitah is this 1 year where we leave the land. We don't work the land. We don't try to have the land work for us and produce anything. We leave the land every 7th year. So it's really just the Shabbat of the land, just like we have the Shabbat of men the 7th day of the week is the Shabbat of men. So too, the 7th year is the Shabbat of the land. So it's very similar. But what I find very interesting is two things. First of all, it's not written when you will enter the land that Hashem gives you. You will work the land for 6 years, and then you will give a Shabbat to the land. It's not like we say for men, Sheshet Yamim Asita Kol Melachtecha. For 6 days you will do all your work. Ve'ayom Shvi'i Shabbat Elokecha. And the 7th day is the Shabbat of your God. This would be more logical to start by saying, well, you will enter the land. You will start by working the land, and every 7th year you will let the land rest from you. It's not what's written. What's written is Kitavu al haaretz, when you get into the land, V'shavta haaretz. And when you get into the land will rest. Shabbat Hashem. So that's the first thing I find very interesting, is that we start by the beginning. We start by the end. We start by the end, in the sense that instead of saying, you will come, you will work, and then you will rest, it's literally written, when you come, the land will rest the Shabbat. As if you will come and immediately you will give a Shabbat to the land. And I find that this is very beautiful because it points to the fact this process of starting by the end, of starting by telling us about Shabbat, the second we're being told about when we enter the land, it's really about reminding us of the centrality of Shabbat. How Shabbat is kind of like the core of everything, and it's so much the core that you don't even have to talk about the rest. You talk directly about the most important thing, and the most important thing is not this whole time that you will dedicate to working and to producing, and it's not the majority of the time, which is the 6th period of time. It's this 1 out of 6, this 1/6 of your time where you will be hands off, and that's Shabbat. That's the first thing that I find so important, is that it really points to how much Shabbat is the centrality, the ikar of all for us. That's the first thing. And the second thing that I find very interesting, very beautiful in this parasha, in this sentence, in this pasuk, is that it's not written when you get into the land, you will give a Shabbat to the land. It's actually written V'shavta haaretz Shabbat. The land will Shabbat, the land will cease, because that's really what Shabbat means, will stop, will do her Shabbat, the land will do her Shabbat herself. And I find it so beautiful, because nature doesn't speak the same language as us. We tend to think that nature has no agency somehow, and because we're able to domesticate animals and have, green plants on our balconies and everything, we end up believing that we control nature. Or it's really all the opposite. It's really the reverse. And this again and again points to us how much appearances are deceiving. So it looks like we're in charge, it looks like we control everything, and really we control nothing. We control nothing. I mean, I just got sick, I just got a cold. What do I control? It's funny, I was so careful the whole winter not getting sick. I was just so careful, And now it was the end of May, and I thought it's going to be just fine. And we're having the worst time ever. We're having the worst last 2-3 weeks of May, and this weekend, the beginning of June. In Paris, worst weather ever. So much rain, there are inundations all over France, and they say it's the worst weather we've had since 1873, What do we control? What do we control, you know? And the land doesn't need us to do its Shabbat. And maybe that's really the core invitation that I see in this parasha. It's the invitation, maybe this Shabbat you can try, not for us to do Shabbat, but to let the Shabbat do us. You know, there's this very beautiful saying, and I just can't remember who says it. I just can't remember if it's Heschel or someone else, who says it's not the Jews who keep the Shabbat, it's the Shabbat keeps the Jews. And it's so true. So how about we let the Shabbat do us this week, this Shabbat? This was the Minute Parasha of Mira Neshama. Please share, like, comment. I really love your feedback. I really love to hear from you. And the more you share, the more it's seen and the more it's being shared. And that's really the whole point, is to share just very simple words of Torah together. B'yachad. This was the Minute Parasha of Mira Neshama. Shabbat Shalom.